In this video, we'll practice using many of the functions of the string data type in Python. First, we have a string, which is a message, and then we're being asked to extract the email address from this string. This is a very common operation. Many often we want to extract pieces of important information from textual data. To extract the email address from the message, we need to understand how the email is formatted. Now obviously we see the message here and we know the email is this part of the message. But we would like to write a piece of code which is general enough that if the email changes to a different email or if the message changes to a different message with a different email, the code will still work fine and it will extract the email from the message. So the key feature of the email address is the @ symbol. So one way to extract the email address is to look for the @ symbol here, and once we find it, we can look for any space before and any space after, and what's in between is the email address. That's one way to extract the email. Another way to extract the email is to break this text to words, and if we break it to word, it's going to be the word that contains the @ symbol. There are more advanced ways to extract emails, such as using regular expressions, a feature we will learn about in the future. So let's proceed with these two different ways. Approach number one is to basically locate the location of the @ and then the location of the spaces before and after. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going just to look at position of @ and I'm going to use the function index or find and try to find the @ symbol here. Now here we see that the @ is at position 56. So if I do message at position @, I'm going to extract @ from this string. Well, so then the next step is to look for a space before and a space after. Well, I can look for a space using the function find. So I can do message.index of space, and that will tell me the index of the first space. Now that's not what I'm looking for here. Index or find will give me the same result, because I'm looking for the space left to this @ symbol here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use another function called leftFind, which basically goes from the left looking for the space. Now, the name of the function is actually rightFind, so rfind. And that will basically tell me that going backward rather than going forward, the rightmost space is this space at location 113. Now I want to do rightFind, but I don't want to start from the end. I want to start from the position of the @. So the function find and rfind also take an optional starting position parameter. So what I'm going to say here, I'm going to say, okay, we're going to start from the position of @ and going backward, and that's going to give us the position of the white space. So we're going to tell it that we want to start from the beginning and end at the position of the @ and then going backward. So that will give us the position of the white space before the @. Let's call it left white space. So now, knowing left white space and PAT, it's possible to extract the substring from the left white space to the PAT. If I do message from left white space colon PAT, that's going to be the substring from left white space to PAT, and that's going to be this substring here. Well, I'm not done yet. I need to go look for this space, and this is the space after the @. So one way to do it is to basically now use find to go to the right. I can do find space starting from PAT. And that's going to be position 69. Now what's position 69? Let's take a look. Let's actually put this as right white space. And let's index the message here from left white space to right white space. And what we get the email address here, but we also get the \n, which is the new line feed and do. We're basically stopping here in this space. And that's because although the email address is separated from do, it's separated from do using a line feed rather than a single space character. So in order to avoid this issue, we have two solutions. Either we need to search for a new line feed and end at the new line, such as in here, which is fine for this example, but it makes our code less general, because it could have been that the email address is separated by a space rather than by a new line feed. So what I'm going to do here to make the code more general than looking for a new line feed, I'm going to replace all of the new line feeds with spaces. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create a new string. I'm going to replace all new line feeds with one single space. If I print or if I display my message to, it's now one liner. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to do that on message to, looking for the @ looking for the left white space, now looking for the right white space. Next, if I do this, it's going to extract the email. The last thing is to get rid of this white space. And this is because I don't want to start at the left white space. I want to start at the character after the left white space. So I'm going to do left white space +1, and that's the email address. So this has been approach 1 to extract the email from the message. Approach 2, we're going to break this string to multiple words, and we're going to process the words. Now we haven't talked about loops yet, so approach 2 assumes we know how to use loops. So we can postpone looking at approach 2 until we look at loops next time, or this may serve as kind of a sneak peek to next lecture. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our message and we're going to split it. Now split by default will split around white spaces. So what we get a list of words, and obviously we're interested in the email address. So let's call this list words. Now we want to go over each one of these words and only select the word that contains an @. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a variable called email. In the beginning, I don't know what the email is, so a good starting point is to say, well, email is none for now. Next, I'm going to write a for loop. What a for loop does basically repeats a set of commands over a bunch of values, and these values will be the values from my words. So each time we go inside this loop, we're going to process one word from my words. Now I picked a variable name that makes sense, word in words, but this is up to you to decide what's the variable name. It can be X, it can be Y. X will be my, it will be name, it will be is, in each time we go through this loop. So next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to test whether X is an email. How do we test whether a word is an email? A quick way to do it is to look of whether that word contains @. So we can either do if x.find @ is greater than -1, because we know find returns -1 if it doesn't find it. If that's the case, I can say, okay, email will be assigned to X, I have found it. Okay. Now if I look at X here, it's going to say the value is going to be the email at the end of the day. Okay. So let's take a look here. We've got a problem when we run this code. If all seasons is creating an issue here, X is email is equal to x because x.find email, find at in seasons, let's do seasons, returned in a -1. So I'm not sure what's going on in here. Let's take a look again. So x, oh, it's not x. We were looking for email. Obviously, x was the last word. So we're looking at email, and email is the email address of interest. So obviously, x goes over each one of these values, but we are interested in email. Another way to say the same, instead of using find, we can do the membership operator. If the at character is in x, email will be assigned to x, and email will be the same here. Let's take a look at the next exercise. In this next exercise, we have a quote in a blurb. The cow said, "An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of purge." Okay, now we have to extract this piece of wisdom that the cow said. We're going to use the same two approaches here. One approach is to locate the beginning and the end of the quote. This is easier than an email address because we have a quote and a quote. So the quote is exactly between these two double quotes. The only issue is that we have a new line and extra characters, so we have some cleaning to do. But we should be able to locate the beginning and the end pretty easily. So first quote will be, let's run this cell first. The cow said, find quote. Once again, I started with a single quote because I wanted to look for the quote here. So first quote will be at position 41. Now, second quote, I'm going to locate, I mean, there are two ways here. I either go backward, I do right find rather than find, and that's going to give me the second quote, which is at location 93, because there are only two quotes. Or I can do the cow said dot find and find a quote, same as before, but I'm going to start from the location of the first quote, +1. So meaning, look for a quote, but don't start from the beginning. Start from where you located the first quote. Or you can look for the quote backward, and because we have two quotes only, the second quote will be the first quote backward, and the first quote will be the first quote forward. Either way, we've got the location of the first to the second quote. Next, I'm going to extract quote here by looking at the substring from first quote +1, because I want to skip the quote to second quote. I don't need to add -1 here to the second quote, because as we will see when we do slicing in Python, it stops at the end -1. And that's the quote so far. An ounce of prevention is worth and they have 2 slashes, pound of purge. Okay. So next we need to clean this thing. And to clean it, we need to basically clean these backslashes here, because if we print this quote here, we will get this extra character that we don't want. So I'm going then to replace this extra character with a space. So I'm going then to replace quote, replace, and then this thing with a space, or with an empty, not with a space, with an empty string. So I've got the quote here. I probably have an extra space that I want to get rid of. So what I'm doing here, I'm going to replace 2 spaces with 1 space. And that will give me the quote cleaned up. Approach number 2 is to split, but rather than splitting around a white space, I want to split around the quote because I want to get everything in between the quotes. So I'm going to go to my message, the cow said, and I'm going to split around that delimiter, which is 2 quotes. If you take a look, you have a list, And the second item in this list is what we're interested in. So then the quote is so let's do this. List L1 equals to that. And then we are interested in L1 at 1. So L1 at 1, and let's take a look at our quote. That's basically the same quote, and then we need to do the same. We need to replace those extra characters, so the remaining of the process is the same.